Yay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Emily. Thank you for tuning in. This is my friend Jess. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but today we are talking all about herbs and herbalism. So, Jess, thank you for being here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do for fun, and your decade of life.
So I'm Jess. I'm in my late 30s. I'm an herbalist. I make tea and herbal remedies. I don't really take clients right now, but I have in the past. I'm a mom and I like to write books, especially about herbs.
Very cool. And yesterday was a pub day for her. So, congrats, Jess.
Thank you.
What number book was that?
So it's actually a fiction book.
Yeah.
And that was book 2.
Very good. Congrats. That's so exciting. Yeah, you basically covered it. So tell us, what is herbalism? I have so many questions. My background is, if you're tuning in, you probably know this. I'm a registered dietitian, so I was educated on the very Western medicine 1.0, conventional. So, and I've said this before. My college professors, all due respect, were pretty archaic and pretty closed-minded around anything like more holistic or outside the box, including herbalism. I joked about them having it like blocked on our labs and our computers, on our computer lab. But yeah, so I'm just scratching the surface on learning about it, so I'm really really excited. But tell us, what is herbalism?
So, herbalism is the practice of using plants, animals, things that come from nature to help support the body. So, it's really an amorphous thing. And throughout generations, up until like modern medicine, it was a part of the culture and the lifestyle for people. Herbalism has been around as long as people have been around.
Mm-hmm.
They even have evidence, like going back to cavemen, of them utilizing herbs to support themselves. So, it's really just it's an amorphous thing. It's a big thing. It's just using plants and animals to support yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seems like very logical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we had pharmaceuticals, we had plants.
Yes.
Okay. So, what are herbs? Like, we're all probably thinking about like leafy green things, but like, what counts as an herb?
So when you're talking about an herb specifically, you're gonna talk about a plant usually. It can be a mushroom, it can be a leafy green, it can be the root, it can be the flower, all these different things. When we do talk about medicine and herbalism, we don't just talk about like in modern medicine, a lot of things are allopathic, where you have an issue. This is the cure for that. In herbalism, it's not like that. It's a holistic system. So you look at the whole body. So yes, you might be having an issue with something, but maybe instead of just taking the herb, you also need to be, eating some more fats or some more protein to also support what the healing process is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yes, we say herbs are a plant, but herbalism also incorporates your stress levels, your diet, your activity, like all of it is part of the healing process.
Okay, cool. So conventional medicine is very allopathic, where it's like, you have high blood pressure, let's put you on this, not let's talk about the factors contributing to your high blood pressure.
Correct.
Okay, that's cool. I've gotten to hear you define, and I wouldn't have known this at all if I didn't hear this, eclectic herbalism. So, like, what are some of the things that, and also for our live, can you tell me if our audio is okay? We're together and we don't have our earbuds in, so if the audio is not good, let me know. But like what goes in? Like, what are some things that we've all heard, like traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda? Like, what kind of goes into eclectic herbalism? Like, what is it kind of made up of that we would know?
So when you're talking about traditional tracks of herbalism, traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda are the oldest, but literally every culture has had an experience with herbalism. And so the eclectics kind of pick their favorite parts of the mainstream ones, and you can blend them together. And it's eclectic. It's an eclectic practice. You utilize different things. And like me personally, I try to lean into the type of herbalism that fits the client or the person or the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it means like there are like formal definitions of what an eclectic is. Like they call the eclectics, like in the 17 and 1800s, are a westernized herbalism, but in more modern day, it kind of has a broader meaning.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the other like differences between those
Like the different types of herbalism.
disciplines? Yeah.
So traditional Chinese medicine is a really unique one because they had one of the first writing systems. So they have case studies that go back thousands of years because they wrote this was the client, this was the issue, this was how we solved it. And they have blends of herbs that they utilize and that they wrote about and that they have information for. Ayurveda is another one that, again, had a long time of writing, but um, theirs is more spirit based. So you talk about the different doshas, the vata, the kapha, the pitta, which is also kind of like in modern terms, we would call it a body type term, like an ectomorph, a mesomorph, and endomorph. But there's personality traits that are involved with it as well. Traditional Chinese medicine also has those, but they have 5 different types of person. And then so one of the things that I like to study is Native American herbalism because I live in America. And so a lot of the herbs that are natural to here, I want to be able to use and utilize with people. And so their traditions are different yet. It's an herbal tradition. And different locations would use different herbs slightly differently because most herbs have multiple uses. So whatever that tribe or location's general use for that herb might be different from one that's, a couple hundred miles away. And I also do study Celtic herbalism, which had a lot more with their gods and goddesses and their spirituality in a different way. And then there's like I said, there's one for every place on the planet. So South African, Australian, everybody has a different methodology that they use.
So cool. So we're in the Northeast in the United States. We're in upstate New York. What are some like local things? I know like people are starting to build awareness around like edible mushrooms and like foraging. And I lived in Vermont for a year and people would do those curly things, fiddleheads. People would go out looking for those. Like, so what's around, we know our area. So we'll talk about our area, and anyone who doesn't live here can always send you questions or inquire. But so for our area, what are we like walking by? What are we seeing in our environment that's actually like has a lot of healing powers or is considered an herbal remedy?
Literally everything. When I teach a class, I will often like go outside the door and I will bend down and I will pick up 3 different herbs and be like, did you know these are herbal? So one of my favorite ones to talk about is plantain.
Okay.
The little leaf that has the veins in it, the plantain leaf with the seeds. The seeds of it are actually psyllium, which a lot of people use as extra fiber. That's where the psyllium husk comes from, is from that plant that nobody can get out of their yard and everybody wants out of their yard. But the leaf itself is anti-inflammatory. It's super healthy. You can eat it as a food. You can also use it as a topical. So like if you get a bug bite or a bee sting, you take a leaf, you chew it up, you put it on, and it will help reduce the symptoms. I put it in an oil so that we can take it with us hiking because you don't see it as much in the higher elevations. And then if my kids get a bug bite, you roll it on and it takes care of it. There's so many. They're like dandelion. Dandelion's another one. People commonly know that you can use dandelion root for a lot of different things. You can eat the leaves. The flower heads are also beneficial. And then there's 2 more I'll mention. Nettle. Nettle is one of my favorite herbs of all time, but people don't realize it's actually native to the Northeast. So you can find it just about everywhere. It will sting you as you walk by it. So you want to make sure it's dehydrated or cooked before you use it. And then chicory root. And I love to use chicory root because people use it as a coffee replacement. And I actually sell one that's a coffee replacement, but it's also really good for digestion and it's got a lot of good fibers in it. Wow. But that is that little blue flower that in the fall is all over the sides of the roads and the ditches. And it's got like a weird sticky like stem, but the little blue flowers, you see it everywhere. Once you see it, you won't stop seeing it.
Wow. How do we so this immediately I go to like, okay, so let's say I want to try one of these, like I should probably not go pick it because it's probably been sprayed or has like road dust or, but like how can I if I'm out in the woods, maybe I can do it and then like I need to just do some research and stuff or like get educated from someone who knows this, but like how can someone source something like this if they know that it hasn't been polluted, peed on, sprayed, something like that, maybe. But like, otherwise, how does someone go about it?
Honestly, with things like the plantain and the chicory, I just let them grow wild because once you stop, like trying to pull them out of your yard, they will take over. And so I have a patch in my backyard for the plantain that I use for my solves and stuff that just has a little tiny fence so the dog doesn't go over there.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other herbs that grow in there that I can pick at any point in time. but yeah, your own backyard, you know what's sprayed back there, you know what's happening. And yes, some of the trails, I wouldn't go right next to the trail. You might want to go off the trail, which then has its own things because you have to make sure it's okay to go off the trail there.
Hmm.
Um, and then also definitely make sure you check for like what the legality is because and
Yeah.
what is that best for the plant. Because some plants, like in New York State, ramps are actually um, are endangered in some places. So
Mhm.
with them, if you can take the leaf and it doesn't hurt the plant, but if you take the whole bulb, it takes 3 years for that bulb to come to maturity again. So that's one of the reasons why it's become endangered in certain places. So make sure before you like plantain, you're fine, you're not going to hurt it. Chicory, you're fine, you're not going to hurt it. Same thing with nettle, but some of the other plants and mushrooms, especially most mushrooms, you're okay with because once they've opened, they've already dropped their seeds and stuff. So um, but definitely look into things before you just go get them so that you're not, harming the environment in the process.
Yeah. So if someone wants to, do you have like you obviously store this information in your brain. You learned it a long time ago, but like, do you have a go-to resource you give to people who are like, I'm gonna go out and find some mushrooms, I'm gonna go out and find some herbs? Like,
So I wrote a book that
okay,
in
speak to
my
me
book,
your book.
yeah, it's not super straightforward about foraging, but it helps you start to understand how to identify herbs by talking about the different fit by breaking down the biology
Hmm.
into bite-sized pieces, so it's easier to understand. And then there's the Northeast Foraging Guide because we're in the Northeast.
Okay.
That one is really really good. And then there's one other I can't remember the name of it, but it has a yellow cover. I'll remember and I'll like put it.
Okay, you can send it to me.
Yeah, but there's a couple of them that are pretty good. The Northeast Foraging Guide has been probably my favorite because it also has like pictures, so you can like drawings. Yeah, so you can like, okay, yes, this is the right thing.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think that's something that's really interesting, especially as people really prioritize trying to get outside and like trying to get the kids outside and off of screens and stuff like that. I think we'll continue to see foraging grow. Maybe you'll write a foraging book with your kids.
Maybe, maybe there's so many book projects right
Yeah,
now. It's like
you don't need
my
to tell
cousin is actually a very well versed forager, and he wants to start having me ghostwrite his book for him. So
Oh, very cool.
yeah.
That's very cool. So as far as like if someone's like, I wanna, I actually just ordered nettles to try as a nettle tea. Um, brand new first time. And I also have bought a tea from you. We can kind of use my questions to you about that as a case study in a minute too if we want. But for someone who's like, I want to buy some herbs, I want to buy it from a trusted source. Um, you are one of those sources. You sell mostly teas, right?
Mostly teas and some salts, but yeah.
Okay. Not like separated stuff.
No, I do sell single herb.
Okay.
It's just there's one thing on my website, and there's a drop down menu with what I have in stock at the time. Um, and if you're looking anywhere else, Mountain Rose Herbs is good. Star West Botanicals, Davidson Organics, and a lot of those places, while they're bigger companies, they also have ability to order things online on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to, because they have shipping, it's right. But the thing that I do warn people with is a lot of these companies, they're going to sell you a bag that's like a 1 pound bag, and you're going to take a million years to go through it. So I sell them in 1 ounces bag. So that's just a little bit more manageable for a lot of people because, if you're not going through herbs on a regular basis, a 1 pound bag of chamomile will literally last you 10 years.
I know. I ordered some. I actually threw it away because I was like, this is like 5 years old now.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna
dust.
Yeah. Is there like so I help clients, of course, like figure out like how to source the right supplements or multivitamins or that's an unregulated
Yeah.
industry. But there's a couple of third party testing companies that popped up and they test for all these different things and they post their criteria online and people have to like pay to get tested. And so like there's a real effort and like really kind of an act of benevolence and integrity from the brands who choose to do that type of testing. So that's something that I help people look for supplements and things and that I look for myself. Talk to me about like regulations within the herbal world as far as like sourcing.
So there are none. So herbalism is not federally like regulated, and supplements are not federally regulated. So with a lot of things, especially when you're sourcing the specific herbs or you're making specific tinctures, there is none. So the person or the company has to go out and get that third party testing themselves.
Yeah.
And a lot don't. And I mean, part of it is it comes down to know your herbalist because like there are some herbalists that will make their own tinctures and make their own teas, and they'll be wild foraging things. And so they can't, like me, purchase certain things that are, because in New York State you can't forage your own and make products for ingestion. But I source some things that are wild forage because they're higher quality. So I can't put on my teas that they're all organic ingredients because some are wild forage. So some people, so like that's the kind of thing, have a conversation with your herbalist or read the company's website, because that is the best way to know what you're getting. Most herbalists don't get into it to not source good stuff. Like it's most of them are probably going to be looking for the right thing, doing the foraging, because that's why we get into this, you know?
Right. There's like a healing, a deep desire for proper, clean, optimized healing.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so there can be an organic credential applied to herbs, as in like if they're under a food product, right? So they qualify to get different organic.
Yes, you can order all organic ingredients. Like I said, the companies that I mentioned, most of them have organic and non-organic options, or are all organic. But yeah, like I said, some of the things like raspberry leaf, I get a wild crafted raspberry leaf, and so.
And I can have you send me the names of those so we can link those in the show notes.
I also have a page on my website and Instagram that has links with discounts.
Oh, okay, perfect. We'll make sure that we put that in there. All right, cool. So I know like it's very holistic. So like I will use my case study for you. I came to you and I was like, listen, I'm having these symptoms around my menstrual cycle. They're new. I think it has something to do with having reverse osmosis water. And so I'm replacing minerals and stuff. Like, what do I do? And I sent you my list of symptoms, and you sent me back a couple of questions and like your intake questions to make sure you were doing everything safely and due diligence. And I answered those. And then you were like, okay, here's some ideas for you. Here's how to do it. Here's dosing, like all of this stuff. And I didn't even tell you this. And I had only done the tincture and the tea like one time each. My cycle was early and I had zero symptoms.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear
I
that.
almost wonder what component was psychosomatic because I felt lost. I felt overwhelmed. Like I was like, I don't want another thing to deal with. Like, but going to you, there's so much in the psychosomatic space. And like, I've talked about this with other people too. It's such a nice topic of like, just knowing someone is caring for you, even if it's like a 10-minute conversation with a provider or something like that. I wonder if that really helped alleviate my symptoms as well.
It might have.
Like you had a solution for me.
Yeah.
And you were confident that I didn't have to suffer this.
Yeah. I mean, one of the main things that I deal with people is stress related or related issues. Yeah. And 90% of the time, it is you have a conversation, you feel seen, and that reduces some of the stress because, again, it's a holistic system. So you can reduce the somatic issues, and then you can support the body with the additional herbs and stuff. That makes a huge difference. Yeah. It's also really important to note that in most herbalism, we recognize that the body holds on to resentment and other feelings. So helping the body to physically release those things. So like in the liver is specifically where a lot of the past anger and resentment is stored. So if you can get an herb that will help you do that while you're also mentally working on that, it makes a huge difference. And you are already doing the mental piece. So having the herbs that have the nutrients to support the detox process makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm. So you introduced me to this concept, which I heard a little bit. Like I have been to acupuncture like once. I get massages sometimes. Like with my musculoskeletal thing with my elbow and shoulder, I've been getting like therapeutic massages, which are not fun. I wrote a little bit about that, or like the ones to actually fix it. But you kind of brought up stagnation. What is that? Is it real? Like tell us like.
So there's a couple different ways that you can look at stagnation. So one of the ways is blood stagnation or fluid stagnation. So lymph system. That's my favorite example because everybody knows you have like lymph fluid stimulation is a thing. Well, that's the opposite of stimulation is stagnation. So if your lymph fluid isn't moving in your body, you're not getting rid of waste, you're having swelling, you could be reprocessing all the waste. That's another thing that stagnation is where like when you have too much, I use estrogen because it's the easy one. Waste estrogen products are a fat-based waste, right? Okay. And so if you're not getting enough fiber, your body will there's the duodenum between the intestines will suck back up that bile that is holding that waste, and then your body has to reprocess it. So that is another kind of stagnation. Yes, things are moving, but the wastes are not being pushed out. With blood stagnation, it's usually more like your blood is thicker. It's again, waste products are not being gotten rid of or moved, or a lot of the time when we talk about like diet, most of us are in fight or flight. And so when your body downregulates your digestion, downregulates your waste removing processes, a lot of the time it will hide waste products in your blood, in your joints, in your liver. This is how we get fatty liver. This is how you get arthritis. And so stagnation can look a lot of different ways. And a lot of times for women, it manifests in our cycles.
Yeah.
And so we get this stagnation of emotion. We get this stagnation, the heavy blood, the dark blood, thick, having a lot of cramping, having a lot of breast tenderness. All of these things can be signals of stagnation. They can also be signals of other things, but so stagnation can come in a lot of different ways.
It sounds like it shows up in like very similar to inflammation.
Yes, and
Yeah,
they're very
maybe
closely
even, like,
connected.
it's causing it's like the sibling of.
Yes.
Yeah, or like what your doctor would call inflammation would maybe be a catch-all for stagnation.
Yes, a lot of time. And especially in traditional Chinese medicine, stagnation of qi. So qi is more of like an amorphous emotional thing. But if you're stagnated emotionally, you're burying those emotions. That's where they get stuck in the liver. That's where your digestion gets downregulated. And that's where things stop moving.
Mhm.
And then, yes, you get the inflammation. Yes, you get the emotional issue. Like,
Yeah, so, like, would it maybe show up as, like, anxiety, depression, PMDD,
absolutely.
panic attacks, and things like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, if someone thinks and, like, obviously you're not gonna prescribe anything, but, like, it sounds like if someone is feeling, like, off or I wanna talk about seasonality too, because like, as holistic practitioners or, like, what used to be called woo-woo or, like, just wanting to get in touch with nature or, like, just thinking holistically, the winter is a time for slowness. The winter is a time for being calm, being home, resting more, eating warm foods, like but our culture's created January rush, go, go, go. And you can see this really transforming in the wellness world, at least like everything I see and probably what you see. Obviously, the algorithm gives us what we like, but at the same time, you're hearing it more from everybody. But what are some things that folks should be asking about when they're thinking about stagnation? We'll do that one first, and we'll come back to winter.
So it's more of everybody's different. So everybody's symptoms are going to manifest differently. It's like I always say, you look at yourself, you look at what's going on in your life. Are you supported in your life? Because a lot of the times you feel stagnated when you're balancing too many things. When a lot of the times I worked with moms, and I'm like, okay, you're a stay-at-home mom. Do you have another person in the house that's helping you? Because especially with small children, it's a full-time job. So you can't also necessarily clean the house and do the laundry and all the things. If you're somebody like if you're trying to juggle work and school, if you're doing extracurriculars, things that are fun for you could also have a negative impact somewhere else. So do you have support?
Yeah.
Like, so these are the things like, do you have support? Are you stressed out? What does your diet look like? Because we learn a lot about nutrition as herbalists because it's the thing you're putting in your body that your body has to process. And has one of the biggest impacts on your well-being.
Yeah.
And then are you moving at all? Like those are the basic things that I would ask yourself. And then start to look at, okay, what are my symptoms? What does my life look like? And how can I make little tweaks? I find baby steps for a lot of people is the way to go to start with. Like if you can just add in again, we're talking about cozy time of year, wintertime, add in a yoga session, a sauna session, have some soups with some warming herbs because warming herbs actually help with stagnation. Your turmeric, your ginger, your cayenne, it's like chili, chili's delicious and great for you. So have that. So that's what I would think about when I think about stagnation.
Okay. All right, cool. So start asking some questions to yourself about like, why do I think I'm stagnated? Why do I think this is happening? What is my body showing me? And then you can ask a little bit more, like maybe I want to treat this.
Yeah.
And it sounds like someone could treat this just by going, or not treat this. Someone could explore feeling better if they suspect this with little to no risk, except for just buying the herbs or the teas.
Yeah. And then if it's something that persists, it might be a deeper thing, and then it might be time to work with a practitioner. But
For
I think
sure.
a
But you
lot
can do
of,
both at the
yeah,
same time.
absolutely.
But if you can't get into the doctor for 4 weeks or something, you can probably go and obtain a tea
Yeah.
and see if that
Are
helps.
mostly mild. And in order to get a medicinal dose that's like going to have a potential negative effect, you need to drink like a quart in a day. And most of us aren't going to do that, but you can still feel a therapeutic effect from 1 to 2 cups a day. So I always say start there because tea is very mild and very approachable for people, and it can do a lot for you.
Yeah. So, winter. And also, you mentioned like these things like my lunch today is a soup that has ginger and turmeric and black pepper and red, like, I don't think it's cayenne, but it's like red pepper. And I didn't think of those as herbs. I thought of those. This is also like my kids and I call this sick soup,
Yeah.
or because my son was like a little under the weather earlier this week. And also Jersey soup because when my husband's out of town for work, we'll make some rendition of this. But I'm kind of paying attention to this a little bit, but like there's so many recipes in our houses and in our families that we're probably using that may have started as a tradition because of like the herbal properties. So tell us like what's in our kitchens
Yeah.
that is actually like medicinal.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's all dependent on the way you take it.
Okay.
So we do have like what we consider a culinary dose, a therapeutic dose, and a
Okay.
medicinal dose. So dosing does make a difference. But even just like a small amount of like oregano can help boost the like bacteria, like you're fighting against the bacteria. Ginger can help with inflammation. So just like, and then the more that you add to it throughout the day, then it becomes therapeutic and medicinal and things like that.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're having like 1 cup of tea a day and it's not a super strong cup of tea, that's probably going to be more of a culinary dose, right? And this is also extends to a lot of things like when people get anxious about whether you should or shouldn't eat things like when you're pregnant and stuff.
Right.
A lot of the time, a culinary dose isn't going to affect anything.
Mm-hmm.
So do your research, but like, you can have just about anything, but if you really want it to have an effect, you want to bump it up a little bit. So like in our house, when somebody is sick, I make tomato sauce, spaghetti and meatballs, because I can throw as much, you could throw 5 heads of garlic and like a pound of oregano in there and some thyme, whatever else is going on. And it doesn't change the flavor, and my kids will eat it with no question.
Right.
So in that case, like a regular tomato sauce, not super medicinal. I added the extra garlic, I added the extra oregano, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I love that you said garlic because that's one of my friends started paying attention to this stuff a long time ago. And she makes her kids take raw garlic and she puts honey on it and they'll do it. Like I don't think I could get my kids to do it. I should have started when they were younger.
So if you put garlic in honey and let it sit, it will ferment. You'll get fermented garlic honey. I also do ginger and sometimes sage in there. And the sharpness from the garlic melts, like gets mild.
Yeah.
And then they can just take the honey if they want.
Oh.
But because it will absorb, because it takes about 6 weeks to become fully fermented, but you can eat it at any point in time.
Would you put it in the fridge or like,
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, because it will not ferment in the fridge. Just leave it on the counter. And then even afterwards, after like the 6 weeks, it's not really going to ferment much more as long as the herbs are below the surface level of the honey. It'll last for like ever.
Wow.
So yeah,
about honey.
and I do that with thyme too, because thyme is really good for this time of year because it helps dry things up. So if you have like that wet cough or whatever, and I use a lemon thyme because it's delicious, and it grows in my garden. And same thing. I'll just spoonful of honey or put it on their toast or whatever. And yeah,
that's so garlic is anti-inflammatory, and is it antimicrobial? Is that what I'm thinking of?
yes,
Okay.
it's antimicrobial.
And a lot of us, I mean, I grew up in Western New York and there's very, very prominent like Italian food culture.
Mm-hmm.
So like I truly believe that like there's never enough garlic.
No.
And so, okay, that's really nice. That's a good thing to just, how do I know I've gone beyond a culinary dose to a medicinal dose?
So it's different with each herb.
Yeah.
But most, like if you look up an herb book, we have what are called monographs. So each herb has a monograph, and in the monograph, it tells you where it's from, what its scientific name is, what parts you use, what its benefits are, and what its dosage is. So you can pretty much go online and look up a monograph for a certain herb or what a dosage is for a certain herb. WebMD has a bunch of them. And it will tell you when you've gone into that threshold.
Wow.
But mostly for like colds and flu, a high culinary dose is going to be fine.
Okay, so just more than you would normally do.
Yeah.
Or like intentionally taking a spoonful of the garlic or something. Okay. What are some, I meant to ask you this when we were talking about stagnation. What are some like differences? We talked about women. What does stagnation look like for men? And are there any specific considerations in men's life cycle around herbs? Because we talked about like women and pregnancy and cycles and stuff. Is there anything men should be thinking about specifically?
So that really depends on a man's lifestyle and a man's personality type, because a lot of them are very fiery. Like that is a man's personality, is to be fiery, and
it's a masculine trait.
Yeah. So when you start to see weight gain in the midsection, that's going to be a sign of stagnation. When you start to see high blood pressure, when you start to have heart issues, that is a lot of the time because men internalize things and our culture doesn't. It's changing. Things are changing, but a lot of the time our culture hasn't accepted men's emotions.
Yeah.
So they have internalized everything, and like 90% of the time it develops into heart disease and high blood pressure because they don't have their hormonal system is on a 24-hour system, so they can reset every day. But when you're burying things inside of you for years and years, it has to manifest some way.
Yeah.
So it's usually the weight gain, it's usually the heart disease, it's usually those kinds of things that you'll start to see. It could be acne, it could be hair loss. There's a lot of different things depending on the person, because a lot of hair loss is also genetic, so you have to take that into account.
Right.
But the graying of the hair, that's usually it can be a copper deficiency, but it can also be a stress related thing. I found that the handful of guys that I have worked with that have had like high blood pressure, that is usually like we clear up some other things. So like, oh, by the way, my blood pressure went down. That does tend to happen.
Wow. That's amazing that it manifests. But yeah, I mean, of course it does. We see where women it tends to manifest in our uterus or our reproductive organs, and men it's manifesting in like their trunk, the heart, and I mean they store belly fat due to like their hormonal stuff and testosterone and everything like that. But
so that's one of the first things that goes down too is their testosterone when the stagnation begins.
Yeah.
So that is, and then it causes the weight gain. So I just, because most herbalists, we don't necessarily take a look at the like hormones and the charts and stuff like that because it's harder for us to get them.
Yeah.
I have worked with them. I do know how to study them, but it's harder to get because insurance isn't going to cover us getting them. So you have to get them from your doctor. But like that's usually how you notice it first, right? It's the blood pressure, it's the weight gain, and then it's the erectile dysfunction. And those are like the common signs that it's not going well.
Yeah. Wow. That's so fascinating. I think it's just so important, like, and this is a disclaimer we should have given at the top because Jess and I both feel this way. It's never just one thing, right? And like the thing that I love exploring about herbalism is because it's already in our kitchen. You don't have to wait for a doctor. Like, yes, you have to be safe. Yes, you have to do your due diligence. But like, we also need to be doing that with ultra processed foods.
Yes.
Like, so anyway, all that to be said, everything that goes in our body, we also need to be questioning the doctor and asking about pharmaceuticals. But I think it's really, really cool. And I think it's one of my main missions is empowering people. And I'm sure that's part of why you got into this as well. Like,
I actually got into this because I wanted to use them with my kids and I was afraid because I had used them my whole life as an adult, but children are such a huge, like everything affects them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be safe with them. And so I started studying it because I wanted to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of empowerment to use herbs with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about that. But I think like the disclaimer is that always check with your doctor, always listen to yourself, like always, do your due diligence. You're responsible for yourself. But like there's this whole other world out there that I didn't even really know about, being in the wellness world for 15 years, that can empower people and like give people peace of mind. And like I use ginger tea that I bought from the grocery store to keep my gut moving, and it helps me with constipation, right? Like it's ginger, and I grate my own ginger and do that too. And it's like,
and
that's a form of herbalism.
And one of the cool things is that we do have so much information at our fingertips. So if you are worried about a drug interaction or anything like that, you can generally look it up and they will tell you, like, because the drug companies don't want negative results. You can also just ask an herbalist. There's a lot of us out there. Granted, pretty much anybody can call themselves an herbalist, but you'll know within a few minutes if they actually studied the human body or not.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, tell us about kids. So you got in, I didn't even know this, but you got into this world so that you could like serve your kids as best as possible and have peace of mind and be safe. And so what has that experience been like? And like, what should people think about with kids?
um, so especially with babies, they're acclimating to the world. Everything affects them. Like so many kids have an allergy to dairy or nuts or whatever that they grow out of in 6 months because their body is exploring the world for the first time outside the womb. And you need to treat herbs exactly the same. There are a lot of herbs that are too strong to use with kids and babies. So there's a lot more that you have to consider. I have a mini book that is like $7 or something on my website that talks about specific dosing because you're not going to use the same dose on an adult as you're going to use on a child.
Right.
So it's important to understand dosing and stuff. But I found that especially like when the kids were little, the doctor's answer for everything was to give them Tylenol because you can't give babies anything. They can't sleep, give them Tylenol. They're teething, give them Tylenol. They're sick, give them Tylenol. And I was like, I don't want to just live on Tylenol. So I like, learning that you can use catnip tea with a teething baby and that it helps reduce teething pain, helps them get to sleep, helps with their digestion, and it's safe. Knowing that you can use licorice for a cough that won't go away because it coats the throat. Like these little things, and then learning how to dose it, like it made a world of difference in my peace of mind and the smoothness of parenthood because like I was just starting to learn it with my first, and so I was a little hesitant, but then with my second, they're only like 17 months apart. I was so much more comfortable already. So we didn't have as many sleepless nights. We didn't have as much of that strife because I was more confident in using the tools at hand.
That's so cool. So, help because a lot of us are so conditioned that like why it's so obvious. Like we're not afraid of pharmaceuticals, but we're afraid of plants that our ancestors have, used and have healing but we're not afraid of our food system. It's just very bizarre. And like there's
Yes.
a lot of cognitive dissonance. But like what would you say? Obviously, educate yourself is the foundation of everything that you're afraid of. But if someone has like apprehension or they're like, I'm curious, but I'm nervous, like, where would you point people?
So the Rosemary Gladstar has a lot of books on working with kids, and that was
Okay.
where I started.
Okay.
And then I wrote my book because it's a little pamphlet, so it's just easy access. You can save it, you can download it, so you can take it with you. And just starting slow and starting small, just like with anything else. When you're starting to teach a baby how to eat food, you give them like one or two foods a day. Like you start slow. So just do the same thing. And like um, with the catnip tea and stuff, all I did was I made a weak tea to start with. And then when I saw that it was working, I made a normal cup of tea. And then as they got older, I was able to use stronger things. And it's just if you're nervous, start off really small. If you're super nervous, ask an herbalist.
Hmm.
But again, a lot of these books have been written with people that have decades of experience and have used these herbs since the dawn of time because like that's what our grandmothers did. Like some of the things that I was doing, my grandmother was like, yeah, we did that.
Hmm.
And like everybody else at the table was like, you're crazy. Like my mom, she was like, why would you do that when you have Tylenol? My grandmother's like, well, that's what I gave you. So,
Yeah.
sometimes having those conversations is helpful too with confidence.
We're also conditioned to be more comfortable with medical research or research and studies than we are with familial tradition and things like that. And I think, again, nuance, grain of salt. But like, is there research around these herbs? Like for people who are more conventionally leaning around medicine and things like that, can we go find resources that have the
Yes.
research?
So the reason that I actually got into herbalism is I worked in the environmental remediation field for 10 years and I knew what I was being exposed to, what people in general are being exposed to. And I
Yeah.
had information about things like PFAS that are now ubiquitous. Like this was 10 years ago when I started hearing about PFAS before everybody else did. And that's why I was like, I don't want to expose my kids to these things. So I'm a very science-based herbalist. I like to look these things up. The government databases actually do a really good job. And a lot of times what you'll find is they will take case studies from traditional Chinese medicine, from other herbalists, and they will analyze thousands of case studies around an herb as opposed to doing specific research on an herb. Because a lot of the time when they do that, and I like to use turmeric as the example because people really believe that turmeric is this wonderful, amazing thing. And it is, it's great. It has great uses. But when they talk about the curcumin, they they isolated the curcumin molecule in their studies, and then they amplified the amount they were using in their studies. They didn't look at the herb as a whole, whereas in herbalism, we look at the herb as a whole, just like we look at the person as a whole.
Right.
And how, when you have, yes, curcumin is great. Yes, black pepper is great to use with it, but like, look at how it's used in Ayurveda. It's not usually used on its own. It's usually used with ginger or with something else because that enhances its benefits. That does other things with the herb. So like, take research as well with a grain of salt. Don't look at the individual molecules as much as, yes, those individual molecules are important because they will give the herbs their qualities, but look at the case studies or the analysis of case studies and how the herb was used and what the result was. Because when you have thousands of case studies, which are individual people, they use the herbs for a specific reason and what their outcome was, it's really hard to refute that. It's really hard to argue that it doesn't work if, 90% of those people had a positive interaction with that herb in that manner.
Yeah. And it's not to say, I feel, because I think I can't get over my conditioning, Jess is never going to tell you do this instead of a medication, and neither am I. But what are like the side effects? Like you mentioned, a quart of tea would be over the therapeutic dose or medicinal dose or whatever.
That would be your medicinal. Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen if I OD on some herbal tea?
It's going to be really hard to do.
Right.
The biggest thing is you're going to get an upset stomach. Like there's certain herbs where if you distill them down too much, they might make you puke.
Okay. That's your body's way of saying that was too much.
Yeah. They could, and just like with anything, when you're trying something new, it can upset your stomach. But Indian food can upset your stomach. Like it, anything. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get used to it. And a lot of the time with herbs, it's a long-term process. Like most people don't have an immediate reaction that feels good. So what happens a lot of time is the herbs, it takes like 4 to 6 weeks to get into your system before you start really feeling the difference with a lot of things. So that is, most of the time it's really going to be like you might be in the bathroom a little bit more, or you might not be able to go to the bathroom, or you might get some, like for certain people, it might, if it upsets your gut microbiome, you might get zits. But like it's no different than like you ate too many greasy cheeseburgers, usually. For some people, like with certain medications or certain circumstances, like with lemon balm is generally regarded as safe. It's great for kids. It has so many wonderful things. But for people that already have a thyroid issue, it can exacerbate that issue. But again, those are specific situations. That's why you want to know your herb. Same thing with like licorice can raise blood pressure for people that already have an issue. And so like, again, a culinary dose might not do that for somebody, but a medicinal dose would. So those are the things where you just want to, know your herbal monographs.
Yeah. Wow. So cool. So much to learn. But it sounds like, obviously you had a proclivity for this. Like you were very passionate about it, but like it is doable. And not everyone needs to become an herbalist to feel more comfortable using or trying these or just eating more garlic or just.
Yeah, I was using herbs long before I became an herbalist. It was just, once I started learning, I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's so cool. I hadn't thought to ask you this, but you mentioned it, and this is on my mind, and I think I hear it a lot from people. How are you, because you have this background in engineering and environmental, just everything, and you're a mom and you're a very conscious, science-rooted person, what are you doing to protect yourself and your family from PFAS? Like you personally, if you have anything specific you're doing.
So my we're kind of hippies anyway. So like when I looked at our lives and the things that we could get rid of, there wasn't already a lot. We don't use a lot of things that have scents attached to them. That's the biggest one. So when we first started testing for PFAS, we couldn't use our Tyvek suits. You couldn't use makeup. You couldn't have sunscreen or bug spray or have washed your hands recently or washed your clothes recently, like because it could cross-contaminate the sample. So it was in all those things. So
wait, say those again. So it was in all these.
It's in your waterproof boots. It was in your Tyvek suits. It was in the bottles we used. We had to have custom bottles.
This was at work doing environmental.
When we were testing to see if PFAS was in our sites, because what we did environmental remediation. So these sites, yes, these sites were already contaminated with other things. We had to make sure that PFAS was or was not there to change the way we were handling it.
Okay.
So like we couldn't cross-contaminate our samples from groundwater with it. So we couldn't wash our hands, have our clothes been washed recently, wear sunscreen, wear bug spray, like couldn't take anything out of a plastic bag, couldn't like open a granola bar because it's on the packaging. All of those kinds of things could have cross-contaminated the sample when we first started. We later learned that it wasn't quite that drastic.
Okay, good.
So, but That being said, it's in a lot of, and scents are one of those things that is a proprietary thing, so they don't have to tell you the ingredients. So like,
Right.
but I've also been my whole family is very sensitive to scents and products. So like I didn't grow up in a household that used them.
Mm.
So I just adopted that as an adult, and I didn't know that if I was allergic to things like Tide until I was in my 30s because I just never used it. Um, and turns out I am. But so we didn't really have to change a lot for us, particularly. My husband's also an industrial hygienist, so he has done research on things like BPA before BPA became a big thing. And so we were already kind of there. You know, we just try to stick to natural products. There's some things that you can't avoid, but it's like the dosage makes the poison, you know?
Right.
So like
You don't like not go out to eat. Just this one's for me. Like I don't not go out to eat, or like when I order like a Thai curry, it's so hot in that plastic container, and I'm like, oh,
I know.
I'm gonna eat this anyway. Like, so you don't like not go out to eat just because you don't know how they're cooking it, right? Like,
Right.
but you
So like if
have
somebody
everything in your home.
Yeah, if somebody gives me a candle, and I like candles. I still burn candles, but yes, you can put chemicals in the air. But like, I tend to have my windows open. I don't use a lot of like really caustic, smelly things. Again, I'm allergic to everything, so that's part of my reason. But it's you pick your poisons. Like you're gonna use some makeup, but maybe you don't use the scented laundry soap instead. Like no matter what you do, you're gonna be exposed somewhere in modern day. You can be exposed literally walking down the street. So don't flip your life upside down. Don't stress yourself out. Is what I say. Take baby steps. You know.
Yeah, you get control of your office. Just got a new carpet.
Exactly.
You know,
you can open the window and let it off gas for a couple days if it's stinky.
Right. Yeah. All right. So you're just trying to be really conscious. You're avoiding scents. You're avoiding like,
Yeah, we don't heat things in plastic. We heat them in glass. I use wooden cutting boards. Like,
we made that switch too. And then we switched to reverse osmosis water because my husband works in engineering as well. And he works on physical products, and they are always trying to innovate for the lowest environmental impacts. And they're always trying to get ahead of what the regulations are coming.
Yeah.
So he kind of also like in different ways, like knows what's coming.
Yeah.
And they are a global company, so they sell in the EU, and the EU outlaws things.
Yep. Way before we do.
And like China has different regulations, so it is very interesting. But yeah, that's a good piece of mind. Like it matters a lot to you, it matters a lot to me, but we also still have to live our life, and we also can't control everything.
Your body's also set up to help you detox things.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why stagnation comes up so much in modern society, is because we're not utilizing those pathways. Like your body is made to process and get rid of waste.
Yeah, your body's going to encounter toxins and then get rid of them. Okay, I love that you brought this up. Yeah, it's like the perfect topic to close on.
Yeah. Like, because even a fire, which is as ancient as men are, like that can have a negative effect on you.
Right. I mean,
burning.
Yes.
So like your body's meant to do it.
Okay.
Spinach too. Spinach is really good for you. It's really healthy. It also has oxalates in it.
Right.
Your body has to process out those oxalates.
How do we not? Okay, so yeah, like my familiarity with oxalates is like kidney stones.
Yep.
And then we have to tell people not to consume oxalate foods, which is like, I haven't done this in a really long time. But spinach, and there's like a tea, right? It's
there's
like green tea and coffee.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, the green tea, because my husband has them. But he doesn't drink green tea, so that wasn't a problem. But yeah, there's certain nuts also.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so we just cut out, I put spinach in everything because I liked it. And then we cut out spinach, and I switched to arugula because it doesn't have as many. So we switched to putting arugula and everything, and stopped eating. I think it was almonds are higher in it. So he switched to like walnuts and pecans for his snacks. So like, those are problem solved.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, like your body is meant to process things. It's just, it's when it gets overloaded. So cutting back here and there, you'll be fine.
That is actually one of the best things I've ever heard a human being say, because I really struggle with environmental pollution and environmental toxins. And like, I also want like the Hygge, like the Hygge word, however you pronounce it. Like, I want the candles, I want the blankets, but I'm like, and then like I got an area rug for Sawyer's room, and I also painted his room. I left the windows open in his room in the winter for like 3 weeks. Yeah. And wouldn't let him move back into his room. Like, I really struggle with it. So that's actually the best thing you could have said to me. Like, personally is like we're meant to. Okay, so when not in school, you're told your liver and kidneys do your detox, blah blah blah. It's bogus. It's not. So
Yeah.
tell me, I'm so glad we landed here. Tell me about like how we support our body's natural detox pathways. Because we're
Yeah.
actually just our modern life is just getting in the way.
Yeah, well, a lot of us are stagnant in life. Like, we don't go for walks, we don't move our bodies. That is the first and foremost thing you can do is move your body.
Yeah.
Even just a simple walk opens up your lymph system so much. Um, Another thing that is can be harder, tight clothes. If you're wearing tight clothes every single day of your life, like, take a day off because that will cut off your lymph system from moving because it's a very sensitive system and it's usually like towards the surface except for like in your core. So like if you're wearing like a tight shirt or the leggings really make stagnation a problem, especially in your lower body. And then just eating the warming spices, there's certain herbs that can help, move things out of the system. And sweating is another thing because like there's different um waste products get excreted different ways. So your crystalline ones, those are going to go through like sweat, pee, urine. But then your fat-based ones, those are going to be through feces and things like that. So like make sure all those things are happening the way they're supposed to. And move and, eat your veggies, like, just supporting your body. And if you feel stagnant, like if you feel the depression and the anxiety, might be, worth yes, emotional support is huge, getting mental health because sometimes it's not you, it's not your detox pathway. Sometimes it's the circumstances that you're in.
Yeah. Address it from all factors.
Yeah.
Saying this is just one piece.
Yeah. But if you're also going through a stressful time, supporting your liver and supporting your digestion is really going to help keep you from getting into that stagnated place because we all have stressful times in our lives. So and that's another thing that with herbalism and tradition that isn't part of American culture is that it used to be when you were going through a stressful time, people would bring you a food. You would have a tea. Before you had your period, you'd have a tea. If you were going to get pregnant, you would eat certain foods. Like, we don't do that in our culture. So we don't prepare our bodies to deal with the things. And that's how we end up stagnated. And then we ignore it. And then 5 years later, we're still dealing with the fallout of the stagnation from a bad situation 5 years ago.
Yeah. 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 That's some really good stuff. This is exactly what I thought we would talk about with this. So amazing. Thank you so much. Do you have like a one message you would like if you're, I always joke about like the tattoo on your forehead around herbalism is like, what would it be? Is it like ask questions? Is it think critically? Is it think outside the box? Like,
yeah, I mean, I wish I had one. I was really thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask it, and I still like. There's just too many. I want to say read all the books. I want to say think outside the box, but also like studying the cultures because especially as somebody who came from a science-based background, a lot of the time when I talk now, my old self would say that's woo-woo and it's garbage.
Right.
But like my mind has been opened up so much from studying tradition. Because especially tradition with thousands of case studies, how do you argue that? The science is there.
Yeah. So true. Okay, well, my closing question for all my guests is what do you want to be doing when you're 80?
Exactly what I'm doing now.
I love it. Except maybe living in the woods and being the witch.
Actually, yes.
You kind of live in the woods.
I kind of live in the woods, and my husband, like, if we get to be millionaires, we're going to buy the horse farm behind our house. So we're just never leaving our house.
I love it.
So yes,
just plant more trees.
Yeah, plant more trees. I want to dig a little pond. And I think I'm always going to have projects. I'm always going to be learning. I'm always going to be doing the things.
Yeah. That's so cool. Oh, one other really cool thing about herbs that I've learned from Jess and I've participated in and I'm participating in at the end of the month. So for local friends, check this out. I'm going to link it in the show notes. But Jess started a mobile mocktail business that she very quickly sold.
Not a people person.
But the idea of like, people are, especially now and especially the younger generations, like doing different things other than alcohol, including abstinence, including microdosing mushrooms, including CBD. I wanted to ask you if cannabis is an herb.
It is.
Okay.
It's not one that I work with, but it is.
Yeah, that's probably its own thing. It's very
I don't work with it because my husband's a federal employee and it's still federally illegal.
Right.
So if it's in my house, it can be a problem for him.
Yeah.
That being said, it it was used medicinally for thousands of years. So there's
It's a
definitely some stuff there.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Jess is doing a mocktail event, and the idea of mocktails replacing your cocktail or, whatever it is just like very cool. And you say the message, but it's around like your drink is doing you a favor.
Yeah, so we focus on herbs that are going to help you get the relaxed feeling, the calming feeling that you're looking for when you're reaching for that glass of wine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Or we're also going to touch on digestion because so many cocktails were actually developed based on traditions around digestion. So
Or like bitters.
yes,
Right?
yes,
Yeah.
bitters. So like we're going to talk about all that. It's kind of like a mini intro to herbalism class based around making these drinks.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. This was so fun. And I will make sure that you know how to get in touch with Jess if you have questions and link to her website and her books and her socials. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.